Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is April 18th, 2023, and we are in the Old Testament. We're in the book of Leviticus. We're going to read chapter 14, verse 33 to 57. Okay, so we're talking about leprosy. We just talked about leprosy on our body, and again, leprosy was that not a rash that's covering your skin. It's actually getting into your skin. It's kind of starting to eat away at your flesh. That's leprosy. You're unclean. You may have leprosy of your fabrics, your clothing, or your tent. And again, it's not just a thing that's growing on the surface. It's actually tearing the fibers apart and ruining the fabric structurally. Similar here in this next section. Well, when I get to Canaan and I'm not living in a tent and I'm living in a house, do I still have to worry about leprosy? Yes. Again, not a covering that's growing on the surface of the stone. It's actually going into the stones and rotting out the stones. That's uncleanliness, and that's a good example of clean and unclean. Now, well, why is clean is good? Clean is trying to approach God. Unclean, you're rotting out from inside. You got to get rid of it, cut it out, get rid of it, and then start over again. So let's go ahead and we're going to read Leviticus chapter 14, verse 33 to 57. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "When you have come into the land of Canaan, which I gave you as a possession, and I put the leprous plague in a house in the land of your possession, and he who owns the house comes and tells the priest, saying, 'It seems to me that there is some plague in the house.' Then the priest shall command that they empty the house before the priest goes in to examine the plague, that all that is in the house may not be made unclean. And afterward the priest shall go in to examine the house, and he shall examine the plague. And indeed, if the plague is on the walls of the house, with ingrained streaks, greenish or reddish, which appear to be deep in the wall, then the priest shall go out of the house to the door of the house and shut up the house 7 days. And the priest shall come again on the 7th day and look. And indeed, if the plague has spread on the walls of the house, then the priest shall command that they take away the stones in which is the plague, and they shall cast them out into an unclean place outside the city. And he shall cause the house to be scraped inside all around, and the dust that they scrape off they will pour out in the unclean place outside the city. And they shall take the other stones and put them in the place of those stones, and he shall take other mortar and plaster the house. Now if the plague comes back and breaks out in the house after he has taken away the stones, after he has scraped the house, and after it is plastered, then the priest shall come and look, and indeed if the plague has spread in the house, it is an act of leprosy in the house. It is unclean. He shall break down the house, its stones, its timbers, and all the plaster of the house, and he shall carry them outside the city to an unclean place. Moreover, he who goes into the house at all while it is shut up shall be unclean until evening. And he who lies down in the house shall wash his clothes, and he who eats in the house shall wash his clothes. But if the priest comes in and examines it, and indeed the plague has not spread in the house after the house was plastered, then the priest shall pronounce the house clean, because the plague is healed. And he shall take to cleanse the house 2 birds, cedar wood, scarlet, and hyssop. Then he shall kill one of the birds in an earthen vessel over running water. And he shall take the cedar wood, the hyssop, the scarlet, and the living bird, and dip them in the blood of the slain bird and in the running water, and sprinkle the house 7 times. And he shall cleanse the house with the blood of the bird and the running water, and the living bird with the cedar wood, the hyssop, and the scarlet. Then he shall set the living bird loose outside the city in an open field, and make atonement for the house, and it shall be clean. This is the law for any leprous, sore, and scale, for the leprosy of a garment and of a house, and for a swelling and a scab and a bright spot, to teach when it is unclean and when it is clean. This is the law of leprosy. May God bless the reading of his word, and may God bless you. Bye.